Welcome back, focus learners, to another explainer. So if you've ever managed an aquarium, a small pond, or really any closed aquatic ecosystem, you already know the absolute crushing frustration of looking into what should be perfectly crystal clear water, only to find a cloudy, slimy, or brown mess staring right back at you. It is incredibly discouraging to put so much love into a habitat only to have it look like a swamp. Well, today we are putting on our ecosystem mechanic hats. We aren't just going to blindly wipe the glass and hope for the best. We're going to look under the hood. We're going to figure out exactly what is causing these aquatic engine misfires, the underlying biology of what's happening in your water, and how to fix it permanently. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our agenda for today. We'll look at 1. Ecosystems out of balance. 2. Why cyanobacteria take over. 3. What drives diatom blooms. 4. Immediate steps for both. 5. Targeted approaches for success. And finally, 6. When to call experts. Think of this agenda as our diagnostic roadmap to systematically break down and tune up our biological engines.
All right, Section 1. Ecosystems out of balance. Look, it is incredibly frustrating, isn't it? You spend your valuable time, effort, and money setting up this beautiful aquatic space, carefully choosing the right plants and livestock, only to have the whole shebang overshadowed by these frustratingly persistent blooms.
So I want to pose this question directly to you. Why do blooms keep coming back? Take a second and think about your own setup. You do your diligent weekly water changes, you're scraping the sides of the glass like crazy. Maybe you even shell out for a brand new expensive filter, hoping it'll be a magic bullet. But despite your best, absolutely exhausting cleaning efforts, that green haze or brown slime, it comes right back with a vengeance.
So the crucial point is, treating the symptoms without addressing root causes often leads to repeat outbreaks. We really need to completely shift our mindset here. We get trapped in this endless cycle because, let's be honest, physically scrubbing away algae is instantly visually satisfying. Your tank looks amazing for a day, but biologically, you've actually accomplished nothing. We have to stop thinking of algae as this invading enemy we can just defeat with a stiff brush and a siphon. Instead, try viewing these blooms as a vital sign. It's like a flashing dashboard light on your biological engine, literally telling you the system is fundamentally out of balance at a microscopic level.
Moving right along to Section 2, why cyanobacteria take over. This is where we set up the first half of our diagnostic lineup. Okay, let's talk about cyanobacteria. It's often colloquially called blue-green algae, though technically it's a bacteria that photosynthesizes. And wow, is it a master opportunist? It absolutely thrives when nutrients, particularly phosphorus, build up way faster than your aquatic system's beneficial bacteria and plants can naturally absorb them. But here's the really critical part of its biology. It gains a massive, unfair advantage in low-competition, weak-flow environments. When your water movement is sluggish and stagnant, sediments just sit there and accumulate undisturbed. This weak flow allows cyanobacteria to weave together into a thick, cohesive mat that essentially smothers out other beneficial life, trapping the exact nutrients it needs to multiply exponentially. Now, looking at specific bloom triggers, notice how many of them are tied directly to rapid environmental changes or, human error. Let's break this down by environment. For outdoor ponds, triggers often include prolonged warm weather that rapidly heats the water, super stable water columns with zero aeration, or nutrient-rich runoff from lawn fertilizers washing in after a rainstorm. For indoor aquariums, the classic triggers are overfeeding your fish, where uneaten food just rots at the bottom, or having insufficient nutrient export, meaning, not doing enough water changes to actually remove dissolved waste. Even a sudden shift in light intensity, like popping in a much stronger bulb, can rapidly fuel this specific type of slime. It is an opportunistic responder to a system that's just struggling to process its organic load. All right, Section 3, what drives diatom blooms? Let's introduce the second suspect in our lineup. Unlike the blue-green slime we just looked at, diatoms are incredibly unique algae with rigid, silica-based cell walls. They almost act like microscopic glass houses. You'll commonly see them as a fine brown dust or this ugly brown film coating your rocks, glass, and plant leaves. If you've ever set up a new tank, I guarantee you've seen this. It is a super common occurrence in newly established or recently restarted aquatic systems. Why? Because early on, your tank's biology is immature and still trying to stabilize. Diatoms are highly linked to available silicates in the water, which honestly often come straight from your municipal tap water or even leach out of brand new aquarium sand. Combine those silicates with the elevated dissolved organics in a new tank, and boom, you've got the perfect recipe for a massive diatom bloom. And this brilliantly illustrates the vast difference between our two main culprits. Think of it like a car. If the engine is blowing black smoke versus white smoke, a good mechanic knows those mean two totally different problems, right? It's the exact same principle here. On one side, we have cyanobacteria, which is driven by an absolute overload of phosphorus, totally stagnant water, and severe overfeeding. On the flip side, diatoms are driven by excess silicates, the sheer biological immaturity of new tanks, and early-stage dissolved organics. By deeply understanding this sharp contrast, the stagnant, nutrient-heavy blue-green slime versus the new tank brown diatom dust, you can immediately start diagnosing exactly what's wrong with your specific ecosystem engine rather than just guessing.
Next up, Section 4. Immediate steps for both. This is our universal treatment plan, emphasizing water quality over temporary chemical fixes.
Here is your foundational 4-part mechanics framework for getting things back on track. Number 1, measure your parameters. You literally cannot fix what you do not track. Get a reliable liquid test kit and measure those nutrients. Number 2, and I really cannot stress this enough, increase your circulation. You have to physically disrupt those dead zones in your tank or pond. Try repositioning your power heads or adding an air stone. Why is this so vital? Because if the water is actively moving, the algae simply cannot settle and weave together to form those persistent, thick, suffocating surface mats. Number 3, export nutrients. This means physically removing organic buildup through deep gravel vacuuming and substantial, regular water changes. And 4, control your inputs. Precision is absolutely key here. Stop overfeeding indoors, and outdoors, physically build barriers to stop nitrogen-heavy fertilizer runoff. Section 5. Targeted approaches for success. Let's move to and see how this builds into our specialized, targeted approaches so we don't end up fighting the wrong enemy. Consider this your ultimate ecosystem physician guide to targeted treatment. If your symptom is blue-green slime, your culprit is cyanobacteria. The highly targeted fix: strictly limit phosphorus coming into the system, carefully remove the affected sediment without just kicking it up into the water column, of course, and massively improve oxygen exchange and overall flow. Conversely, if your symptom is that brown dust, your culprit is diatoms. Your fix here: time, system maturation, and managing your silicates. You might switch to reverse osmosis water, but honestly, time is your best friend. As your system matures, beneficial biofilms stabilize and naturally outcompete the diatoms. In almost all cases, they'll completely diminish on their own without you having to resort to any extreme chemical interventions. Finally, Section 6, when to call experts. Because there are limits to DIY ecosystem mechanics. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it serves as a very serious, incredibly important wake-up call. We aren't just talking about a visual nuisance here, folks. If you are dealing with a larger pond or outdoor water body, certain severe cyanobacteria blooms can actually produce highly dangerous toxins. This poses a very real risk to people, livestock, and pets. If you suspect a toxic bloom, especially if it smells foul or literally looks like spilled bright green paint, do not try to fix it yourself with a backyard net. Contact local environmental authorities or qualified water quality professionals immediately. But what if your issue is strictly indoors, and the basic mechanical corrections we just thoroughly discussed aren't moving the needle? Well, if those blooms are persistent, escalating, and just shrugging off your water changes, it usually indicates hidden nutrient sources you haven't found yet, like maybe a decaying fish under a rock. It points to fundamental underlying flow problems and a strict need for a deeper diagnostic assessment. It means your biological engine has a deep, hidden imbalance that absolutely warrants professional investigation, or at least a complete recalibration of your filtration strategy. Which brings us to our final provocative question for today's explainer. Will you keep fighting the symptoms, endlessly scrubbing glass in a losing battle, or are you finally ready to tune up your ecosystem's engine for lasting stability? Remember, treating these blooms as vital dashboard signals rather than isolated problems is your absolute fastest path to permanently clear water. Consistency and a healthy dose of patience will eventually yield that beautiful aquatic environment you've been working so hard for. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.